Hello, this is Ali Biko and welcome to another episode about e-learning series for second baccalaureate students and also for all levels. And this time I chose to deal with one of the grammar lessons in the second baccalaureate level, and which is the passive voice, how to change the active sentence to a passive sentence. Okay, here we go. So I'd like to start with an observation. So we're going to look at a couple of sentences and we're going to observe how the passive voice is formulated. Sentence number 1. The passive voice is used frequently. This villa was built in 1654. These roads are being repaired. I noticed that the door had been left open. Every year, thousands of people are killed on the roads. All the cookies have been eaten. My car has been stolen. 2 men were killed right here last week. These shoes are made in Italy. Great efforts are being made to fight corona. A cure for COVID-19 will have been found by the end of June, hopefully. So as you can see, all these sentences are put in the passive. Alright, so we're going to see how they are formulated. So how to change the active to the passive. Let's see this sentence here. So normally, if you want to put the sentence from the active to the passive, we need to have a subject first. We need to have a subject and a verb and an object. So this is very necessary in the passive. All right, there should be an object. So this becomes, in the passive, the house was sold by Kamal. Now look here, the changes. The house becomes the subject and Kamal becomes the object of buy. All right, so Kamal becomes the object, and the object of the active becomes the subject of the passive. Right, as you can see here, the object of passive becomes the subject of the passive, and subject of the active, which is the house, becomes the object of buy. All right, so I have put forward a complete list of all the verbs, of all the verb forms that are normally used in the passive, because there are certain verb forms that are not used in the passive. Okay, so for the verb form that are used in the passive are the present simple, the present continuous or the present progressive, present perfect simple, past continuous, past perfect continuous, past perfect simple, future perfect simple, and the infinitive. And here we have the rule how this is applied. It means this is the rule that you should follow in order to change the active to the passive using one of these forms. For example, the present simple. Now in the present simple you should follow this construction. So you have to put the verb to be in the present simple. It can be either am, is, or are, plus past participle of the verb, okay, of the main verb. So what is the past participle? If the verb is regular, you just add ed to the verb. But if the verb is not irregular, it means it's irregular, then you have to check your irregular list. Okay, which I recommend that you have to learn them by heart. So we have an example here. This word is that's verb to be, right, is pronounced differently. For example, present continuous, we use the same thing. We have verb to be, being, are being, or is being plus past participle verb. For example, the house is being painted, and so on and so forth until the end, right? So you can pause and look at these sentences, how they are constructed in the passive voice. Okay, there are certain verbs, they need two objects. For example, give, we can say give someone something, or give something to someone. Send a message to someone. Show me something. Lend, to lend someone the money. Pay, you pay someone the bill. Promise, you promise someone something, right? Refuse, tell, offer. So all these verbs, they need at least two objects. So in this case, we have to be careful, or these sentences that have these verbs, they can be put in the passive in both ways. We can start with the object 1, or we can start with object number 2. So as I said, these verbs are followed by two objects, which usually refer to a person or a thing. So when we say give someone, it's a person, and give someone something, and that's a thing, right? We have an example here that shows this. So we have, he gave his sister the car, or he gave the car to his sister. This is active. Now when it is put in the passive, it becomes like this. So we have to choose, either we start with number 1, or we start with object number 2. So here I put them here, both of them. His sister was given the car. Was. Why did I say was here? Because the verb is in the simple past. If I begin my sentence with the car, I would say the car was given to his sister. So most often in such cases, the person becomes the subject of the passive verb. So normally we start with the first object, unless you are required to start with the object number 2 in the exam. So we have here some examples that you have to work just for to do them, okay, and see how you can change these sentences into the passive. So we have A, they have just sent me 2 emails. So first we have to recognize where is the verb. That's have sent. It's in the present continuous, present perfect, present perfect. And we have the me, it's the first subject, and 2 emails, it is second subject, second object. First object, second object. Now B, he lent you $100 last year. So we have you, that's object number 1, and we have $100, that's object number 2. She showed us all the different ways of making money. So we have the verb showed, which is in the simple past, and we have us, that's object number 1, and we have all the different ways of making money, that's object number 2. So as I said, we're going to start with the person, right? Here we're going to start the sentence with me. Okay, so this has to be changed, and we have you, and we have us also, it has to be changed. Okay, so we have A becomes I have just been, so me becomes I have just been sent 2 emails. B, you were lent $100 last year. And number 3, we were shown all the different ways of making money. So what are the main uses, since the passive and the active mean exactly the same thing? So why do we bother ourselves with these changes? Now here is a list of three reasons why we use the passive voice. So we use the passive voice when the agent is not known. We don't know who is the doer of the action, I mean the subject, or we know the subject but the doer of the action, but it's not necessary to know it. It's not the agent is not necessary. For example, here, my bag has been stolen. So here we don't know who stole the bag. I just said my bag has been stolen, my car has been stolen. Number two, when the focus is on the action, not on the person who does the action. All right, like for example, these products were made in China. We know that they are made in China, but we focus on the action of the making. These products were made in China. And also we use the passive voice to avoid using you and one when making any personal statements, when the doer of the action is everybody. For example, taking photos in the museum is not allowed, so we should not say people should, okay, people should not, okay, or are not allowed to take photos. So we just say taking photos in the museum is not allowed. So here the agent, we know the agent, it's everybody, so we push in the passive. Okay, all right, we're going to see this little example here. Right, I'm going to transform this sentence from the active to the passive. So as you can see in the picture, it's a squirrel. So the squirrel collected the nuts. The nuts, these are products. Okay, the squirrel gathered the nuts. So we have here three elements. We have the subject, which is the agent, and the verb, it's in the simple past because we have ed, and then we have the nuts. So it becomes the nuts were gathered by the squirrel. By the squirrel, sometimes by the subject, it's optional. You can do without it sometimes. All right, so look at this man, he's painting. Okay, so we have the passive. Now we're going to write the active. The wall was painted by Matthew. So this is the subject. Matthew painted the wall. Example number 3, the voters will determine. So we have a simple future, will determine the election results. Okay, so we have the election results will be determined by the voters. Okay, so one thing that you should understand, that in the passive we should understand the nature of the verb. So there are verbs that are transitive, and there are other verbs which are intransitive. So what is transitive? Which means they need an object, whereas the intransitive, they don't need an object. For example, the verb cry, the verb sleep, they don't need an object, so they cannot be put in the passive. So look at this one here. Gina crashed the car. They saw the accident. So we have here the verb, we have here crash. Gina crashed what? Crashed the car. So this verb is transitive. It needs an object. They saw the accident. So the accident is an object. So saw, or the verb see, is a transitive verb. So these sentences can be put in the passive. Whereas the intransitive, for example, a problem occurred, a problem happened. So what is the object? We don't have it. So in this case, the passive is not valid. Or they have late. So in this case, arrived is it's an intransitive verb. It doesn't need an object. Okay, so transitive, verb plus object. whereas intransitive just a verb. We don't have an object. Okay, so we have here Janet earned the promotion. It becomes the promotion was earned by Janet. Intransitive verb, like birds fly, so the passive is not possible, right? Birds fly. What is the object? It does not exist, so this cannot be put in the passive. Okay, so with transitive verb, passive, okay. With intransitive verb, no passive. Okay, let's see some examples about this. It rained yesterday. It rained yesterday. So is it transitive or intransitive? Think about it. Yesterday, is it an object? No, this verb is intransitive, so no passive. This should not be put in the passive. This is a medal. Anna won a medal. So look at the verb win. The verb win in the past, in the simple past, it's won. So is it transitive or intransitive? Okay, it is transitive. So passive, yes, we can put this in the passive. So how can we put this in the passive? It's a medal was won by Anna. Okay, so I hope you understand the difference between transitive and intransitive verbs. Now let's do some practice. Egyptians built the pyramids of Giza, right? So we have here becomes the pyramids of Giza were built by Egyptians. Columbus discovered America, right? So always look at the verb, in what verb form it is conjugated, okay, and you start with the object. So it becomes America was discovered by Columbus. Cervantes wrote Don Quixote, right? So as you notice, all the verbs here in these examples are put in the simple past so that you can understand how I make it easy for you to understand the formula, how to change from active to the passive. So we start with Don Quixote was written by Cervantes. Beethoven composed the Ninth Symphony. The Ninth Symphony was composed by Beethoven. Very good. Move on. Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. Okay. The light bulb, again, we start with the object, was invented by Edison. Eiffel designed the Eiffel Tower. Okay, so we start with the Eiffel Tower again. The Eiffel Tower was designed by Eiffel. Picasso painted Guernica. So Guernica was painted by Picasso. Alan Turing made the first computer. The first computer was made by Alan Turing. Walt Disney drew Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse was drawn by Walt Disney. So as you can see, all these sentences are similar, only the words change. So, but the rule is the same. Armstrong explored the moon. The moon was explored by Armstrong. Okay, so let's move to the passive voice with other tenses. So we have an exercise here, but with other tenses, not just simple past. We have different tenses. So change these sentences from active to passive. So we have number one, people speak Portuguese in Brazil. Number two, the government is planning a new road near my house. So we have here present continuous, here simple present, present continuous. My grandfather built this house in 1943. So here we have the simple past. Number four, Picasso was painting Guernica at that time. So we have here past continuous. And number five, the cleaner has cleaned the office. And we have here the present perfect. Present perfect. Okay. You can pause the video and you can do this exercise, and you can check. We can check together, right? Or you can check yourself. So we have number one, Portuguese is spoken in Brazil, right? Arabic is spoken in Morocco, right? French is spoken in France. American English or English is spoken in the US, in Australia, in Great Britain. Number two, a new road. Okay, a new road. Here I gave you a hint. I underlined the object you are going to start with. A new road is being planned near my house. Number three, this house was built in 1943. Okay, and number built, there's a mistake here, built. Picasso was painting Guernica at that time, so it becomes Guernica was being painted at that time. And number five, the office has been cleaned. Okay, we move on. So I chose these examples. They are from I chose these 6 examples. They are taken from previous national exams. So we have number one, Robert edited the magazine in 2 days only. And you're going to start with the word magazine. Number two, you should follow the instructions carefully. So I'm going to start with the instructions. Ahmed Sfraoui wrote La Boîte à Merveilles in 1954. Schools should give music lessons to children. Number five, in our association, we give priority to disabled people. And finally, number six, because of bad weather, the airport authorities cancelled all flights. Right? So as usual, stop or pause the video until you do this exercise on your own pace, and then you can check the answers later on. But let's see the answers now. Number one, the magazine edited. So we have here the verb edited in the simple past becomes the magazine was edited by Robert in 2 days only. Number two, the instructions, we have the word should follow. It becomes should be followed carefully. So it's not necessary to say by you, right? It's a general statement. You, it means everybody. Number three, Ahmed Sfraoui wrote La Boîte à Merveilles. So it becomes La Boîte à Merveilles was written by Ahmed Sfraoui in 1954. Number four, music lessons should be given to children at school or by schools. So if you see number 4 is the same as number 2, and number 3, there's no number here, number 3 is the same as number 1. Only the words change, but the rule is the same. In our association, we give priority to disabled people, so it becomes in our association, disabled people are given priority. And finally, because of bad weather, the airport authorities cancelled all flights. All flights were cancelled by the airport authorities because of bad weather. Alright, I hope you have benefited a lot from this video, and please do not forget to subscribe for more videos, okay? And see you next time. Thank you very much.